one of my favorite teachers, Chogyam Trungpa Rinpoche, wrote a book called Spiritual Materialism. And in it, what he talks about is this idea of spiritual materialism. So the idea is we have an ego. Freedom, happiness, joy, liberation, they all happen when that ego dissolves. You know, that place where there is no internal chatter, there is no sense of self, there's a feeling of being connected. Okay, the ego can co-opt just about anything, including the spirituality that's there to dissolve it for its own purposes, to fortify it. So we have all seen these people who wear the mala beads, and they wear the shawl, and they have the bindi, and they are so put together, and their language is so mindful. And they are here to make a suggestion about how you might do it better when you're in your spiritual practice and crying and snotty and under a table and vomiting. They know. That's a form of spiritual materialism. What struck me is that at least we have an idea of what real spirituality looks like, but I don't know that we have an idea of what real sexuality looks like. See, I think we have a kind of sexual materialism. We know it is red teddies, him pleasing her, her pleasing him, jade eggs and vibrators, and those things might be amazing. I don't know. All of those are over there. John Perry Barlow says the difference between love and true love is the difference between a very large number and infinity. And for me, the difference between sex and Om is the difference between a very large number and infinity. It opens into a kind of infinity. It liberates you of the mind that's keeping track. There I was, and I had begun to study, and we built OneTaste. The whole thing happened. You know, this idea, it used to be weaving orgasm into the world, conversation is what we said, but then I said orgasm, and everyone could only imagine climax, so I had to change the word. And then it all came crashing down. There I was left with this question, see, because I have seen 30,000 people go through the doors. I have seen this healing. I have experienced this healing for myself. I did know the science was coming out. So there was this question I was left with, and I'll ask you, if you knew you had a kind of medicine, but that medicine was surrounded with a fear and a loathing and a hatred that jeopardized your life, what would you do? The turn of the century, the yogis came, but they were viewed as dark hypnotists who were here to steal the women, but they felt they had something powerful and healing. And so today, 1 out of every 3 people in the United States has done yoga. And it's one of the top protocols that's non-pharmaceutical, that's prescribed by physicians. Researchers used to give academics psilocybin. Those researchers were run out of town. They lost their post. They were vilified. Some were investigated. Some were put in prison. Some are in prison today. And do you know that that same government that did that is in this moment, through the Veterans Affairs, conducting studies on the effects of psilocybin on PTSD in veterans? That same government is conducting studies through the FDA on the effects of psilocybin on alcohol abuse. So then mindfulness enters through the form of Buddhism. And these Buddhist teachers were considered at that time cult leaders. They were considered brainwashing their students. My favorite, well, my teacher's my favorite, but my second favorite teacher, Trungpa, was actually run out of the country. And yet, today, 90% of all med students are trained in some form of mindfulness to offer to their patients. There's an app that goes out to 2,300 businesses to fundamentally change business at the foundation in order to offer mindfulness and to shift the culture altogether. We had the science. There's 5 peer-reviewed papers, 3 that are in review, 5 studies that are in IRB review right now. A new trauma study is starting in Boston. We gave you some of the findings in that. I'm just going to give you one more, and that is that one of the most exciting things that Dr. Andrew Newberg, who's considered one of the top 3 neuroscientists in the world, found. This is one of our next studies because he was, this was shocking, is that there may be permanent brain changes as a result of Om. They only find this in 30-year practitioners of meditation and, oddly, vegans. But these changes turn a person toward joy, turn a person toward resilience. So the same amygdala that we know when we hear about trauma is inducing these ruminating thoughts can also be retrained and repurposed for joy. This is the thing that I think got lost in translation. Healing is not a direct process. Healing is a result of entering into a mystical state. And then you come out of the mystical state, and as a byproduct, healing occurred. You do some psilocybin, depression is decreased, anxiety is decreased, trauma overall is decreased. When you have a question, I don't know about you, but I go home. My home happens to be in Erice, Sicily. It happens to be the most beautiful place in the world. And I think even if you weren't Sicilian, you might agree with me. So it's this mountain. And the mountain is a spiral, and there's rocks around the entire mountain. And so you drive up and you go around this spiral, and then you park your car. And when you park your car, you get out, and there's another spiral. And so you walk around that. And there's these kind of restored mini churches that occur in Sicily. They're like, oh, you had a cannoli, you need to go to church. Oh, you bought a dress, you need to go to church. So it's like every 3 doors are these beautiful, beautiful restored churches. Dark pews, brick floors. The utmost care is put into the restoration of these churches. You walk around. And then you walk over here. When you walk over here, you see the ocean. When you see the ocean, it's deep, deep, deep blue. Across the way is Africa. You walk down a set of stairs and you enter what can only be called ruins, where there's stones, but most of it is dilapidated. And then you see that sign there. What that sign says is, "Welcome to the Temple of Venus." What prayer was to the Catholic priest, sexual rites were to the priestess. The word kadosh was what was used for these women. Kadosh means holy. It was translated by the priest to be prostitute. So that table, obviously, is not an original, but that's where the rites were held. I can't see a table and not get on it. So I did, and I laid there, and I imagined, what would it be like if we restored this building? What was it like when it was filled, when it was brimming with these women bringing this healing, when people were coming in for healing? I just imagined this world. And I had my question with me, and then I had my answer.